Today, there are somewhere around 500,000 elected officials in the United States, and how political parties choose their candidates for those offices has evolved considerably over time. In the early decades of the country's history, caucuses were held to decide a party's candidate in any particular election. In the distant past, only party leaders participated in these meetings or caucuses, and the time and place of the meetings was not necessarily made public. Beginning in the 1820s and 1830s, this system came under criticism as being undemocratic. A somewhat more democratic process developed, referred to as the nominating conventions. At these conventions, specially chosen party members gathered to choose candidates for their party. The system typically began at the county level. At the county level, delegates decided on candidates for local and county offices and selected representatives to attend a statewide nominating convention. Members of that meeting decided on the party's candidates for state office, and in presidential election years, chose representatives to attend a national nominating convention. The national convention then named the president and vice presidential candidates who would represent that party in the presidential election. These nominating conventions often came under the control of powerful state or local party bosses and still did not allow average party members to participate directly in the selection of candidates. Delegates typically voted in bloc as their party leader directed them. Thus, the powerful party leaders could collaborate to determine who would be the nominee for both state and national office. In the early 20th century, states began holding primary elections in which voters select the candidates who will run in the general election. This is the method for choosing candidates used in most states today. For several decades, presidential primaries were so-called beauty contests. That is, they did not necessarily result in the allocation of delegates to attend the national nominating conventions, but were rather simply tests of a candidate's relative popularity. Over time, and especially for presidential elections, voters pushed for a stronger voice in the nomination process, and the parties began passing rules that would allocate delegates to the national conventions based on the results of the primaries. Yet some states continue to use caucuses to choose delegates who are pledged to support a specific candidate, but even these meetings are more open to the ordinary party members than they were in the past. Despite the importance of party primaries to the electoral process, voter turnout in these elections is generally low, typically half that of the general election. In some cases, less than 10% of eligible voters turn out for primary elections. Generally, only the most committed party members and activists vote in the primary. The result is that candidates running in these nominating elections need to establish their faithfulness to party principles in order to win the party's nomination. According to many analysts of American politics, this process has contributed to the sharpening political divide between the two major parties by producing candidates for office and ultimately elected officials who are less likely to compromise with members of the other party out of fear that party activists will withdraw their support in the next primary campaign.